what does Bernie Sanders think about giving convicted felons the ability to vote? Now, this has been a big topic, especially in states like Florida, where the voters there overwhelmingly voted in favor of allowing convicted felons who were, not rapists and murderers to vote. But Bernie Sanders seems to take it a little further than that. So let's take a look at his answer.
You have said that you believe that people with felony records should be allowed to vote while in prison. Does this mean that you would support enfranchising people like the Boston Marathon bomber, a convicted terrorist and murderer? Do you think that those convicted of sexual assault should have the opportunity to vote for politicians who could have a direct impact on women's rights?
To answer your question, as it happens in my own state of Vermont, from the very first days of our state's history, what our Constitution says is that everybody can vote. That is true. So people in jail can vote. Now, here is my view. If somebody commits a serious crime, sexual assault, murder, they're gonna be punished. They may be in jail for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, their whole lives. That's what happens when you commit a serious crime. But I think the right to vote is inherent to our democracy. Yes, even for terrible people. Because once you start chipping away and you say, well, that guy committed a terrible crime, not gonna let him vote. Or that person did that, not gonna let that person vote. You're running down a slippery slope. So I believe that people who commit crimes, they pay the price. When they got out of jail, I believe they certainly should have the right to vote. But I do believe that even if they are in jail, they're paying their price to society, but that should not take away their inherent American right to participate in our democracy.
So two important parts to that. One is he's 1,000% right about the slippery slope because it's a trick. They say, oh, a Boston Marathon, oh, child rapist, right? Okay, then who does it actually apply to? Millions of people who are in prison for drugs, okay? They use it as an excuse to take away the votes of all those people. And so the reality is all the rich and all the elite did drugs. They just didn't go to prison for it. Obama did drugs, Bush did drugs, Clinton did drugs.
Let's take it a little further. What about the rich and elite who have committed rape but never faced the consequences for it?
How about the rich and elite that do sexual assault and brag about it, grabbing women by the genitals and without their permission?
And also, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, right? I mean,
and all his buddies who hung out with him, including Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. So there's two different sets of rules, and so what they're trying to do is take away votes from the most powerless people, and it takes extraordinary courage and principle for someone like Bernie Sanders to stand his ground and go, no, I believe in this principle, so that means for everybody. Now, the second part is the Boston Massacre. So what is that? John Adams, obviously one of the founding fathers, our second president, defended the British in the Boston Massacre. British troops fired on Americans, and of course at the time, 1770, they weren't Americans yet. John Adams would later make them Americans. And John Adams defended them, even though there was rage among the colonialists against the soldiers. In fact, there was so much rage, later John Adams started a revolution, right? But before he started the revolution, he defended the British soldiers in court because everyone gets a right to a defense and everyone gets the right to vote. And we don't change that based on how angry we are at any one person.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about this for the last town hall, is that they asked him if he wanted them to vote because they would vote for him. Because they made the assumption that people in jail vote for Democrats when so many of them are Republicans. But I just thought that it was funny because the way that the woman, the Fox woman framed the question to Bernie was, you want them to vote because they would vote for you, when categorically they are more in line with the principles of even the president of the United States as sexual assaulters and people who are criminally minded and obstruct justice and do all of the, do things that they're not supposed to do. So would they really vote for Bernie? Probably not, because their principles are in line with that current administration.
I did just think of one answer that would have been slightly better. So I believe in felons being able to vote and people in prison being able to vote so much that after Donald Trump goes to prison, I'd even let him vote.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.